Okay, let's look at Dorf. Dorf stands for Dibble's Oral Reading Fluency. This measures students' ability to read connected text fluently, accurately, and with comprehension. There are two parts to this, oral reading part and the passage retell. And when the students are finished, they actually can have up to 4 scores, because they will have a accuracy score, a fluency score, a retell score, and a retell quality score. This assessment is given in first grade, second grade, and third grade. Students do have a booklet that they will be using to read the passages. When you're doing progress monitoring, students read one passage. When you are doing beginning of the year, middle of the year, or end of the year benchmarks, students will read 3 passages, and the best score will be chosen as their score, or the middle score, excuse me, will be chosen as their score. This is an example of student materials. They will read as much as they can in 1 minute. I don't know many, if any, students that ever reach the end. Before we read that, let's take a look at one of the passages. Here we go. Nope, that's not it either. No, let's go back up to the overview then. Okay, this is what your screen's going to look like. The students will be reading this. When a student starts reading, you will tap the first word. It will appear in a box, and the word "the" would be in a red button, and it would also be in a green button. If they read that first word correctly, you would tap the green button and keep listening. If they read the first word incorrectly, then you would tap the red button, tell them the answer, and let them keep reading. Okay, some of the common scoring rules. If students get a word incorrect, you're going to tap it, and their word will turn red. If they correct themselves, you can tap it again, and it will turn green. If they're adding in schwa sounds, or if it's an articulation or dialect issue, again, go ahead and mark the word correct. If student hesitates, follow the little 3 clicking dots at the top. Once 3 seconds have passed, you say the word and mark it incorrect. Our goal is to try to get them through as much of the passage as possible. So it's very important that we're paying attention to that 3 seconds so that we can give them the word and they can keep going. If a student misses all words in the first row of the first passage, the device will ask you if you want to discontinue. If a student reads fewer than 10 words correct in the first passage, you do not need to administer the retell or passages 2 and 3. You can go ahead and discontinue and choose not to continue with that. It will ask you if you want to continue. It will ask you also, if they read less than 40 words, it will ask you if you want to do the retell, and you can say no. Word order is an issue sometimes. The text says, "My dog has fleas." Student reads, "My flea has a dog." You're going to tap flea and dog incorrect. Mispronounced words. "I live in town." Student reads, "I live in town." You're going to tap live incorrect, because if they're using their context as well as using the sounds in the word, then they should know that live in town does not make sense. For proper nouns, text, "I visited Dubai." Student reads, "I visited Dubai." They may not have ever heard of Dubai. They may not know anything about it, but if they pronounce it wrong, we can mark it correct. Okay. Numerals. The text says, "My dad is 36." Student reads, "My dad is 36." You're going to score 36 as incorrect. Abbreviations. Mr. Duck is here. Student reads, Mr. Duck is here. Mr. is counted as incorrect. We're assuming students should know what these abbreviations are by now. Words not read exactly as written. The girl had ice cream. Student reads, some girls had ice cream. Scoring, the and girl are incorrect. Two words read as a contraction. It is time to go home. Student reads, it's time to go home. It and is are incorrect. Contractions that are read as two words. It's time to go home. Student reads, it is time to go home. You're going to mark it's as incorrect. Okay, with a first hesitation of 3 seconds, passage retell. You're going to be given a prompt to retell. You're going to say, tell the student, please tell me as much as you can about the story you've just read. And then you're going to start to score. You're going to touch it for every word that you hear to count how many words they use in their retell. Once the student stops telling you and hesitates, wait 3 seconds. At the bottom of the screen, there's a button that says 3-second pause. Tap that 3-second pause button, and the device will give you another question to say. You say, can you tell me anything more about the story? You may only say this to them one time when the device tells you to. After the 3-second pause, after you read this question, you wait 5 seconds. If the student begins to talk, then you can continue to count what they're saying. If the student just is repeating what they've already said, don't count it. If they're adding to what they've said and it's correct, then you can keep counting the words. Once they pause again, wait 5 seconds, tap the 5-second pause button at the end of the screen, and it will stop the retell. Many students do not make it to 60 seconds for the retell. They pause before they ever get to 60 seconds, and that is fine. Now, when they're doing a passage retell, these items are correct. These are incorrect. Accurate details are correct. Contractions, you'd count that as one word, but it's correct. Minor repetitions. And they might mix that up, but they're getting the main idea. Incorrect. Exclamations, or they say or you're not going to count those as words. Songs and recitations, I don't know, I guess if it reminds them of a song and they start singing, or if they're just trying to recite the story from beginning to end, you're not going to count that. Rote repetition of words and phrases. They just keep saying the same thing over and over. Stop counting it. They go into their own story. One time when I was, or they start saying things that have nothing to do with the text. Don't count. Stop counting the words. Or they restate the details over and over and over. Don't count that. When you're done, it will ask you about the quality of the response. 2 or fewer details. They told you at least 2 things about the story. Maybe just 1 thing about the story, no more. Level 2 would be 3 or more details. They don't have to be in order, just 3 details they remembered from the story. 3 or more details in a meaningful sequence. Now it says meaningful, that doesn't necessarily mean first, next, last, but if it's meaningful, if it has some significance why they're giving it to you in that specific sequence, and it's 3 details or more, go ahead. So even if they give you 6, 7, 8 details, but it's not in any kind of a sequence, you're going to give them a 2. But if they can give you at least 3 details and it's in some kind of sequence, they would get a 3. And if that meaningful sequence also conveys that there's a main idea, then you can give them a 4. And note, if the student provides only the main idea, it would be considered 1 detail. So that would be a 1. If a student stops reading at any point, and it's not because they're hesitating at a word, you can say, keep going. If a student loses his or her place while they're reading, you can point to the next word in the passage. If a student completely skips a line, there's an X on the left that you may tap to show that they completely skipped the line, and you can keep scoring wherever they are reading. We don't go back and help them find that. We don't say you skipped a line and go back, because we're trying to get them to read as much as they can in a minute, and that breaks their concentration and messes up their score. After you finish the first passage, it will give you a screen that looks like this, that gives you the 4 scores I mentioned earlier, and tell you to proceed to the next passage, where you would hit next. Then after the second passage, those scores will appear. You'll hit next. Then after the third passage, it will put a little arrow beside which score it assigns to the child. And you'll get the little running man again. I mentioned earlier, if they read less than 40 words, retail's optional. You can say discontinue assessment or keep going. It's fine to discontinue assessment unless you just want to keep going for some reason. This is what it looks like once the assessment is complete. Okay, if you would like to practice doing Dorf, you may go to www.mclasshome.com, log in, choose training, and choose the Dibble's Next scoring practice video, which is this presentation, and watch it. You can skip around and find the parts that you want to practice. And at the end, it will review it and show you the correct way you should have marked it, to see if you're marking the same way that they are. And it's a good way to get some practice in if you are new to it, or you just need to refresh, or maybe you feel like you're too slow, whatever. There's a few different chances to practice here. Remember that fluency is the measure of words correct per minute. Substitutions, omissions, and words read out of order are incorrect. Before the student starts reading, you hand them their student materials. And then before they start retelling you, you take the student materials away. We want them to retell strictly from memory. They do not need to refer back to the passage. And then in order for you to be able to do this assessment, you need to read the passages and know the details of the text. Because as you're scoring, a lot of times you're missing out on details, and the kids start to retell it, and you're not really sure. So make sure that you know what's in the text. So good luck on your Dorf.